Welcome to Blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Cyrus and Marissa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, welcome to Blamestorming. I'm Marissa Smith. I've got Dave Cyrus with me.
Hello. I've
got AJ Mattioli with me.
Hello, hello.
And I've got Marcus Kelly with me.
Good morning.
So, Dave is actually in from LA. He's Skyping with us today. So, how's LA, Dave?
Oh, it's fine. Thank you for asking. I'm in LA for no particular reason, but I'm glad I can Skype in. Now, can you guys see me?
Yes, we can see you.
That is
vividly.
That is the only reason I have a shirt on. It's really hot.
Those were Anne Frank's last words.
Well, we're off on the right foot.
Exactly.
Fit right into all the roast battlers we have on this show.
Yeah.
This is actually the first time Dave has allowed me to book the guests.
Oh, so you're sunk.
Yeah, so like this is not the this is the first time we don't have like roast battlers on, actually.
Okay.
I have repeatedly wanted you to book guests.
Okay.
You're gonna regret that in about 20 minutes.
Oh, I'm not regretting it.
I didn't veto.
You didn't veto who, Dave?
Me, apparently.
The two people we have today, I'm saying. Usually.
Oh.
I'm sitting right here.
Yeah, you're just like, whatever. I'm going to be in.
I'm like, okay, Marissa, book literally anyone.
Yeah, he's already phoning it in.
So, now, like, what are you doing in LA? You're just like visiting friends?
Yeah, I got stuff to do. I got to go to some guy's party. I got to go see people. I have a lot of people who need my attention in LA that I have to partition out every so often. I lived there for a very long time.
Okay.
That's all.
So now, AJ, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. This month has been, I would say, like, if you stay off of Facebook and forget about the current state of the administration in the country, it's been an awesome Pride Month. Been celebrating a lot, but then, you know, reality hits you and you're like, shit. It really feels like it went from a parade back to a march, you know, and I think, you know, the month has been pretty crazy. It's been pretty great, but also pretty protest heavy and insane in the same realm.
Yeah, no, definitely. How about you, Marcus?
This month has been crazy. I mean, I've got more shit going on than Adele's bathroom after a Taco Tuesday. It's been cool. I mean, I think it's amazing to see the energy in the city. I love Pride Month, and I think that much to the same sense of what AJ said. I think that it's a celebration, but at the same time, there's like a note of rebellion to it, which I think is great. I think it's important. I think that, you know, New York, you know, we are sort of the vanguard of that, and I think it's really great. I think it's interesting, you know, to see this year with the Pride March having moved. It's sort of it moved the route.
Yeah.
It moved the route. And I think this year we're seeing it become so commercialized. I think that's interesting. But it's been great. I mean, the stuff that I'm doing this year is really cool. I've been very, very booked. I think that the nightlife is in a great place. I think the community is really cool. I think there's an appreciation for art and music and coming together that I really like. But like AJ said, too, I think that there's a rebellious streak, too, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Trump presidency really is a reward for anyone who already didn't care if the whole world lives or dies. It's like, if you already didn't care, you're at a wash. You're doing great.
You're doing
People
great.
Cared
You're doing great.
for.
Well, that's why you moved to
really
Middle
suffering.
Earth. It's like, I mean, if you don't care, move to Middle Earth.
Jesus.
Yeah. So now AJ, I had like read on your Facebook, like you were having some people like go after you because of the flag.
So, you know, I like to, not to quote Dallas Dubois or Danny Logan.
Oh,
I know,
God.
which is crazy.
That poet laureate.
Yeah, he actually, a drag queen friend, or former drag queen friend of ours, used to say that we are the only community born onto enemy turf. And a lot of times you'll see in LGBT community that the LGBT people will kind of keep the trans community out of it. And recently there's been a little bit of talk every year of changing the flag a little bit to be more inclusive. And the minute you even post about it, God bless, but some white, cis, gay, Ninth Avenue queer has something to scream and holler about how it already represents everyone. And regardless if that's true or not, we should always, as a community, we should always be open to change. That's kind of the point of our community, is to be more progressive, in my opinion. And, for me, I don't personally give a shit about the flag. For me, the flag is a symbol of a movement, and, for me, it's just a piece of fabric, the same way the American flag is just a piece of fabric. I think it's more important about what's behind it. So if your first line of defense is, well, the flag already represents everybody, and stop, and then, I'll have a lot of people say, stop having the trans community take over everything. We fought for these flags too, and it's like, that's all well and good, but right now, the trans community was kind of left behind a little bit when, gay marriage was legalized. It kind of, we kind of got left in the shadows a little bit. And
no, that's an interesting question that I've actually never thought about. So, now I know gay marriage is legal, but is trans marriage legal? I mean, I would assume that it is. But
it's totally legal. It's just it's one of the things of that was our biggest fight for a very long time. And once that was legalized, we kind of, the trans community kind of got left in the dark a little bit. The fact that a lot of trans women of color are forced into prostitution, and that's, who meets them, and that's how they get murdered. You'll hear a lot of white cis gay men who are, a lot less progressive than Marcus, say things like, well, she shouldn't be prostituting, she shouldn't be doing sex work and things like that. And it's like, well, they'll be the first to victim blame. So for me, it's the arguments that the minute I say something about the flag, the first thing I get back is, shut up, you tranny. I got a lot of that. I got an email from someone with, and I kind of hope my sister's not watching this today, but I got an email. The one that really put me over the edge was an email of a picture of me and my nephew from about 8 years ago, which means this person was clicking through quite a bit in Facebook. And
that's healthy.
Yeah, right. And wrote to me with his picture, I hope that your nephew doesn't become a tranny fuck like you.
Oh, shit.
And are these gay people?
Yeah.
These are other LGBT people saying that to you.
So, I mean, but I will say they usually are, they're either a twink for Trump, which is actually a thing. A lot of common Republican. I mean, they are usually someone that once they're outed within the community, they are ripped to shreds, but... that was happening all because I dared to say, maybe we should add some more inclusiveness.
So now, what are you suggesting that's added to the flag that doesn't exist in the flag now?
For me, I'm not suggesting anything.
Well,
I mean,
what are the things being tossed out there?
One of the things is, this year and last year, it was adding the a black and brown flag to include more people of color because they are... an oppressed group very much amongst the LGBT community as well. Right. So it's a way to include them a little bit more. And then it was to add the transgender flag colors. So essentially we do have individual flags as well. For those that don't know, we have an agender flag, we have a trans flag, we have bisexual flag. But the way the colors were added was to create a almost an arrow into the flag, so it looks like it's pushing us forward. In the direction of progressive. Again, for me, it's, I'm like, if me posting an article is going to enrage you so much, if you have that much freaking privilege that the idea of adding a color is going to set you into such a fuckfest that you have to go and click through, we're talking probably 1,000 pictures before you get to that one, yeah.
You've got problems.
Unless it's fuchsia. I just hate fuchsia, but
fuchsia
the
was
number
actually
of colors
on
is
the
no
flag
problem.
originally.
I think it is. I think it was too. And then also I think they added the the black stripe originally was for HIV victims.
Yeah.
Too, so there have been additions made to it. It just hasn't gone mainstream. And quite frankly, I think if you're trying to initiate a conversation about the flag, you have more problems than a flag.
Yeah.
And I think the idea too that we're, talking about, Stonewall and things like that, you're an idiot if you're in this community and don't realize that this movement, the avant-garde of that was trans women of color.
Yeah.
These are also, trans women of color are the most vulnerable class, not even in the queer community, in this country. In this country. So not talking about that and not giving them the platform and then victimizing that is so against the whole fucking point of this. Am I allowed to say F?
They're the most
I can say
vulnerable
F on this?
community, and at the same time have given us most of our slang.
Yeah.
For sure.
They get no credit. They've basically invented every slang word of the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
And listen, like, there's
all of our vernacular comes from
all of the vernacular. And right now, I don't know if you guys know this. I just recently shared the fact that my cousins of mine own the Pulse nightclub that got attacked 2 years ago, and right now they're getting sued by the families of the victims for not doing enough to prevent it. Essentially, putting the blame on the owners of the bar, saying that they should have had cops there. And thinking back to Stonewall, I go, I promise you, your children know their history, and if they were alive, they would not be supporting you suing people for not having cops there.
We're also a community that historically has had problems with law enforcement.
Yeah,
so the idea that they would be at, I do doors at nightclubs.
Yeah.
I did a door at the biggest, gay party the day after, you have to understand that I don't want to say that there's a risk involved, but we don't want police. We don't want police necessarily there at all times. That's not part of club culture. So I think I didn't know that, and I think that's reprehensible.
Yeah. So this was just another platform for something to show politically. But now they're not giving the names of the people that are suing, so I cannot imagine that is the survivors that were at that club. I would be very shocked if it was the other gay patrons. I do have a feeling that it is the family members of the victims that don't know gay culture. But I think it's just another thing of people talking about things that they don't understand. The same thing with the flag, saying that this has always been the flag. No, it hasn't always been the flag. The flag actually used to have fuchsia, but it was too expensive
to make.
Yeah. So that's why we took that. If that was a good enough reason to take it out, but people don't know their history. So these people are suing this. My cousins who own it, who are a heterosexual couple. But felt the need to open this place and give LGBT community a safe place, and something horrible happened there. Now people are looking to make money off it, where that money should just be going into the community. And if you have that kind of money, you should be putting it into LGBT communities and maybe training our security, who is usually an LGBT community person, paying for them to do some sort of
or at least a friend of the community.
Yeah, 100%. So
I do nothing but work with security guards 5 days a week.
That's
and
it.
Ostensibly in New York, they're straight identifying cisgendered men, mainly of color. I mean, some of these I've been friends with for 10 years. I think it's ridiculous to think that any of these people could have done more. And the idea of I remember talking to bar owners after the Orlando after Pulse 2 years ago, and them talking about how they understood the importance of having obviously police officers present on Christopher Street, but at the same time how sort of invasive it was. Yeah. To the proceedings and the festivity and to people's level of comfortability. Obviously, you have to put that aside when it comes to safety at this point. But it's not. There shouldn't be the precursor of police all the time. But if you remember the visual of that with machine guns on Christopher Street during Pride was just insane.
It was extraordinarily insane. And at the protest, at the vigil rather, having all the cops there, seeing all those cops in front of Stonewall. I felt like if I took those pictures in black and white, it was a scene right out of the history books. And I know that this time they were there to protect us, but there's always a friend or foe situation.
And it's always just been because back in the day, when I was in high school and college, I used to be a club kid, and I used to go to the tunnel, and I'd go to the curfew parties. Yeah. And so, like,
I mean,
you know,
I'm too young to know what you're speaking
yeah,
of.
it's like, what are you talking about? So, like, I used to go on the curfew side all the time. I'd hang out in the jungle room, and like, literally, drag queens taught me how to do my own makeup. Like I remember I was in like that unisex bathroom, like upstairs, and like this guy was like fucking with me, and this drag queen came up and like saved my ass because like this guy was like trying to like kind of push me into a stall, and just like oh, like let her go, and then like she turned to me and she's just like, honey, you're cute, but what's going on with your face? And I was just like, and I was just like, okay. And so she's like, you coming back next week? I'm like, yeah. She's like, bring all your makeup. Don't touch your face. I'll show you what to do. And I was just like, okay. And I thought she was fucking with me, but part of me was just like, you know something? I can trust her. Like, I think she will. So, like, I literally threw all my makeup in my purse, and I came, like, I went to the same bathroom at the same time. She was there. She's just like, okay, let's get started. And and it was almost like, I don't know, she, like, I was her Frankenstein, but like, she just like did my face. I'm just like, oh, so this is how I'm supposed to put on my eyeshadow. Okay.
And that's the story of how we met.
Well, Marissa, to be fair, that doesn't make you a Frankenstein. It makes you Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
she was the Frankenstein.
Thank you for your literary correction, Dave.
Mary Shelley over here.
Just like, God damn it, don't rewrite my story.
I prefer to think of her as Mrs. Todd Browning. That's what it on the original poster for Frankenstein. They thought people wouldn't go to see a movie written by a woman, so it just listed the writer as Mrs. Todd Browning. Which
oh my god!
One of the funniest, weird, like one of the dumbest. Like, so it's still a woman, but at least a married one.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, because like a single woman couldn't possibly write. Her husband wouldn't let her.
Oh, sorry, Todd Browning was the director. I meant to say Mrs. Percy Shelley, who was Mary Shelley's husband.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But like back then, like if you saw like cops standing in front of the tunnel, it was like, oh, this place is about to get raided.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just definitely
Swallow your e-pills. Swallow your
it was just like uncomfortable. And like I was straight edge back then. So like when people would like ask me if I wanted to buy earring, I'm like, nah, like I'm straight edge, like no. And like I'm literally the first time I ever went to Limelight, I was 15. And like people were asking me if I was like an undercover cop, and I'm like, what do you think, this is like 21 Jump Street? Like no. Like I haven't even graduated high school yet. Like
Yeah,
a lot of people thought I was an undercover cop when I hung out in punk clubs in LA just because I have a naturally big chest.
yeah.
I just look like a young looking cop those days.
You still look like a young looking cop, Dave.
Well,
yeah.
I look like I used to look like a young looking cop.
I would be nervous if I saw him walking down the block. I'll be honest.
You're just like, another one of those.
Another one of them. Ugh.
So now
I have a question.
Yeah. What's up, Dave?
Actually, I have a question. This is actually a question. We were just on the subject of, as you know, as a straight guy, you know, an outsider to this. What is your opinion on because I've just known different people have different opinions on this inclusion of aces in the flag or in LGBT as, you know, asexuals? Is that a controversy, or is that just something that maybe has been portrayed as one?
It hasn't become I mean, I will say that my community is very queer, so that's a non-issue. Even I've spent plenty of time in the kink community, and there's a lot of kinky people that are actually asexual. And
how does that work?
Essentially, kink isn't really about sex all the time. It's more about the feeling of like, kind of like, think of how like a massage, like you feel really good when you get a massage, but like you don't then like let them bang you, you know. It's kind of like that kind of thing. You know, so I would say that from my perspective, I've never had anyone have an issue with it.
Never.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's no. Well, I mean, it you know.
Well, someone needs to take them.
And
No, that's the thing. They don't want anybody to. That's the whole point.
and I mean, I think that it's gonna be just a matter of time before it's their turn to have someone's sneak around their neck. You know, like right now it's the transgender community's you know, time to be the most oppressed, and then when we get all our rights, we'll be like, fuck these non-binary people, and then, they'll get their rights, and then they'll be like, fuck these asexual people, and then they'll get their rights, and, it'll just go until there's one poor person that is the fetish of all fetishes that's sadly the last one to exist.
I think that the divisiveness of it all is very sad. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I think that's what the craziest part is. One of the things I love about Bushwick in Brooklyn is the fact that, like, I feel like I always say there's one gender and it's she and her, and that goes for the straightest, most cisgender white men. The name of this beer is a she, the name of the microphone is a girl. And even though I identify as a man, I feel like Bushwick has kind of just been like, everything is just going to be under the quote-unquote feminine terminology, and I kind of adore that.
I do get called she more than I used to.
It's the boobs. You asked for it, my friend.
Hey, I work
Breasted
at them,
cock.
so.
So now, Marcus, like, what is the thing that you're looking forward to most this Pride weekend?
The paycheck. I really am. I'm working quite a bit. Not to take away from the fact that it's very important. And I had this really amazing experience to go. I was at the Tenement Museum for this talk about queer immigrants and refugees in this country. And I was so inspired by I think we in America, as queer identifying, you sometimes take for granted how privileged you are, even as a minority.
Yeah.
And it was really very, very powerful to hear people talk about their first Pride, even in their transitory countries, I believe is the term for it, like Turkey and Lebanon, which are vehicles for them to escape to United States and things like that, and to hear people talk about their first Pride being the first time they had pride in themselves was really, really beautiful. And I think that I've been in nightlife for 10 years and have worked every year since I've been in New York. And I think there's a celebration and it's fun and things like that, but it's very commercial in the nightlife sense.
Yeah.
I'm working 10 or 15 jobs this week, and it's a great paycheck. But in my mind, I'm very focused on not losing sight of how really magical it is to be here in New York and, still in America.
Especially in New York City. I feel like, I live in Bushwick right now, and I lived in Manhattan for so long, and there was a couple of times I decided to go, at nighttime, go back to my parents' house in Whitestone, which is only 20 minutes away from Manhattan, and going on the Long Island Railroad and watching, like, the kids take off their stickers and take off their pride flag and throw them out, like, and you forget that you live in a place of privilege and that, like, that's not everyone's reality, and it's fucked up.
It's not like this in like so many places, especially in the Middle East, and it's something to be very, very, very conscious of. I think that we're very, very blessed. I mean, they're talking, these people were talking to me about how they escaped from Iran and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and they're in these transitory cities, and they're still getting death threats, and not from strangers, from their families.
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking. And
I mean, like, and then like the concentration camps in Russia, like, I mean, like, we're not even fucking talking about it. Like, I mean, the gay community is, and the liberal media is a little bit, but, like, I just feel like this country is in such disarray right now that, like,
that's also things we don't necessarily hear about. I think that we never hear in the mainstream news about, the slaughtering of trans women of color.
Yeah.
That never receives, widespread news. Of course, in the liberal papers that we read. And
I heard
like
someone said to me, well, out of, all the people in the world, only having like 25 of them murdered a year isn't that many. And I was like, well, we only make up 3% of the country.
Yeah, not when you look at how many actual people there are.
Yeah, like,
it's a really high percentage.
Yeah, 1/3 of all teenage youth in New York is gay. And, like, yeah, it's only 1/3, but, like, when we only percentage-wise, gay people only make up 10% of the country, it's like, think about
that's so disproportionate.
People, like, it's disproportionate. Like,
it was always like, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's like basically like, I think maybe like, I'm gonna say less than 3% of the country has like ever come in contact with like a trans person or a gay person. And like that to me is just so insane because like, well, first off, I went to an all girls school. So like right off the bat, I knew a bunch of lesbians like forever, like, you know, and then like I
played softball,
you know, and then like
with each other.
That was hardball. But like then like living so close to the city and like clubbing at like a young age, so then I got to know like trans people. So like the whole idea for me, it's like, how have you never yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't make any sense.
They all know gay people. Those gay people are just terrified of telling anyone they're gay because of where they live. I mean, when I was a little kid, you know, it seemed as though growing up in like New York and New Jersey, it seemed as though everyone was anti-gay. Like it seemed like it felt like you were either really anti-gay or just like didn't like them. Like it felt like that was the least homophobic thing and I'm talking about, you know, like 9-year-old boys. Like I think a lot of us felt like we had to pretend to be more homophobic than we were just out of fear, because it was like, I mean, the F word is something that like every little boy got called constantly. It was the word that you were emasculated with. Yeah. And it is something you kind of have to, you know, that hopefully most boys, I think, outgrow, especially when they're taught not to be. And, you know, now as an adult, I feel like the most homophobic thing I've done in the last several years is making out with a girl at the Stonewall.
And then that's how we met.
Yeah.
But I think you have to look at that over like the spectrum of time. I mean, that's also been a sort of cultural change. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 28, and I think that the public consciousness has sort of changed with that. But on your point, I think to zoom out, I read a very interesting study about how most upper middle class white women I call it Middle Earth, anything that's not New York and California, I refer to it as Middle Earth. People that live in that region of the country do not even have another female friend of color. Yeah. And I think that that's when you have, you know, this administration that says that Mexicans are rapists and trans women are lurking in bathrooms, because you don't have the personal context of knowing an individual that identifies that way. I think that's how he gets away with it. Yeah. You know, you don't have anybody or certain positive role models in in the entertainment or things like that. Not that there aren't, but if you're not privy to that or looking out for that, then that's why it's believable. You know?
Yeah, it's really crazy to me because like, kind of to your point, like I grew up in like Westchester, so I've kind of always been like this very close to the city and had a diverse group of friends. But like from like 6th grade to 12th grade, my best friend was Muslim. I had another best friend that was Colombian. We used to all go to clubs. Like my club friends were all like drag queens and like trans women, and like I can't tell you how many times like a trans woman or a drag queen has saved my ass in a club. Like literally like save me. And so like when I hear people like, oh, like and I can't fathom it, because like I'm just like, are you insane? Like these have been like some of the most protective, nurturing people I've ever met, and like to like have people like, oh, well, they just want to go and molest children in a bathroom. I'm like, do you know how many people I've been prevented from being molested because of a trans woman or drag queen? Like, you know, it's just insane to me. And you just really see that. I mean, like,
there's a whole reason that like straight women always go to gay clubs so they have a safe place to be. Right. I mean, like that, which is annoying as fuck for us, because we're like, get your community in check. It ain't our fucking problem. But I digress.
And I think anyone that wants to use the women's room should be able to, because you're a fool, because the line is always longer.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're willing to wait, go right ahead.
I mean, to be honest with you, when the line's really long, I use the men's room.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter.
I like rarely even look. The only time
it's still the same pipes.
Yeah.
Let me just say, the thing that these people are forgetting is, you know, if a man wants to go into the woman's bathroom, he doesn't need to be he doesn't need to dress like a woman to do it. He could just walk in. And, you know, if the guy, like, I don't think the rapists are putting in the time to put on makeup.
The leg work.
They're
not beating their face. Like,
I want to ask Marissa, how do you have all these almost getting in trouble in clubs? What are you, Bruce Banner?
I don't know.
Oh my god. Well, because like I
'Cause,
started clubbing
men?
really young. Like, so I started clubbing when I was like 15, and like like
I
was
think your
just-
answer is just
I
it's
was
men.
young,
No,
yeah,
I think the
and-
reason you get into all these situations is men.
yeah.
No, that's fair. That's very
I mean,
fair.
it
I
was,
was just kidding.
there was like, it was, and I, there was like, I was young. There was a lot of like drug use back. Like, I mean, there's still a lot of drug use now, but still,
At this table.
I don't know. I had
keep
to
on
wait till Dave was away so I could get decent beer assortment up in here because Dave's like, I want you focused on my show. But
Well, Crespo got drunk out of his mind on your beer.
Who?
that's that I didn't book him.
Oh,
Yeah, but I didn't give him beer.
Cluck,
Not
cluck,
my
cluck.
fault. He can't handle his beer.
Nobody drive home.
Our 110-pound guest had like 6 beers.
nice. Okay, that's fair.
Well, I can't judge how many.
Seems like
Beers
good
together.
people to me.
I know, right?
I'm like, we're
Well,
from the
he's
queer
skinny and
community.
has no arms. He weighs very little.
I wasn't bringing up the fact that he has no arms, but I don't
that's
think that
why.
that has anything to do with the fact that he can't handle beer. Well, maybe he can't handle things,
I was going
but
to
not.
say, you might not be able to handle anything. What a terrible thing to say.
I'm gonna burn in hell because I just made a pun off of Crispo's not having hands. Anyway,
But if he gets liquored up,
Uh,
seems like a good time.
I know, but he had a good time. Crispo definitely had a
Yeah,
good
it
time.
sounds like he had a great time.
Yeah.
So now, Dave.
Mhm.
Did you hear about Ann Coulter?
Oh, God.
Yes, yeah. That she called the children actors.
Yes.
I have worked with child actors. If those are actors, get them my card.
Well, first of all, what is Ann Coulter but a fucking actress?
She's a feckless cunt.
Exactly.
My God.
Ann Coulter is a fake.
Just
And that's-
sensationalist
that.
cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think she believes. She's not even a good actress. I don't believe that she believes that.
I mean, I
anymore.
think she
really
acts
does.
really, really well for like a skeleton. Like the fact that she hasn't eaten in like a couple months.
You said she acts well. She dresses very well. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Because I'm gonna have to disagree on both counts.
I want to see Kellyanne Conway and Ann Coulter
in the same room.
fight for a chicken wing. Like, that's what I want to see.
The worst thing about Anne is the fact that she wants to be this, I'm just telling it like it is, and you're a bunch of snowflakes. Meanwhile, when you did a roast, when you did the Rob Lowe roast, she was the worst sport we've ever
It was
seen.
great. It was
She
in
put me to
roast comedy.
sleep faster than a blind date with Bill Cosby. I mean, it's like, and I don't understand. And I honestly think that her and Kellyanne Conway have the same stylist,
They have to.
and it's obviously not a gay man.
No, it's dress
They have the
bar.
only straight stylist in Washington D.C.
Since we're talking about Ann Coulter, can I real quick? I wrote for the that roast. Can I tell you one joke that did not make it to the show that
yeah,
I
yeah.
wish
I'm
did?
begging of you.
Yeah.
It was, what's with this dais? No black people and Ann Coulter? What are we roasting? A cross?
And she'd be there toasting a marshmallow. I mean,
Oh my god, she's such a.
But like, wasn't she like dating like JJ Walker for a while or something?
Jimmy Walker.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
The actor. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that she really is kind of faking all this. She's a lot like Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh wanted to be a sportscaster, but he wasn't good enough, and he figured out what he needed to do to get people to listen to him.
There you
She
go.
wanted to be a novelist, but no one liked her novels. So she's like, well, I can become famous by just being this horrible person.
and still writing fiction.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason she's calling these kids actors is because the alt-right right now is almost on autopilot when it comes to lying. Like, they're not trying to tell believable lies anymore. Now it's just, we'll just say anything just to end the conversation. So she's calling them actors because she's saying that anyone who's a victim of anything is acting. The kids at Parkland were actors. The kids at Sandy Hook are actors. And now these crying babies, like, she knows they're not actors. She's just saying actor is the new way of saying, I don't give a shit about whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna make Marissa speak for every black person everywhere right now.
I do that every episode. Go on.
So
Great.
Wait.
because the
Dave, you haven't announced it yet.
Oh, God.
Well, thank you, AJ, for doing that for me this
No
time. I usually pepper it in.
Listen, I'm usually the token trans guy, so you know it is what it is.
Dave's the token Jew today.
Oh, cool. Nice. I like that.
What do I get to be? Just a slick faggot? I mean,
every day, all day.
It's a vocation.
I recently had to unfriend. See, I have a thing where I will defend any minority in every freaking way, because until we're all equal, none of us are equal, okay?
Don't tell me you defended Ann Coulter.
No. So the Parkland kids, right? I had a person of color who was a friend of mine, and I decided to not argue, to just unfriend. When they were on the Tonys and they sang the song from Rent or whatever the hell they sang.
Seasons of AIDS or
Seasons
something.
of AIDS, something like that.
You know, that catchy ballad.
She put on her Facebook, like, where are all the children of color? And I was like, but it was the drama class from that school. So, like, I don't. First of all, maybe they passed away. First of all, maybe there was like two, and it's predominantly a white school. I'm like, would you have? And I was like, maybe kids that watch their friends get murdered shouldn't be subject to this harsh of a political statement. Again, I think it's, I have a weird thing with guns. Like, my other cousin James Mattioli got murdered in Sandy Hook. Like, so between Pulse and Sandy Hook, I just feel like there's certain times where you just, like, do you feel like that's something that, like, I know my Facebook page is filled with trans people's opinions.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's something that's come up on, because you probably
Can I just comment on this very fast, on the kids?
Yeah.
Being that they were all actors, I always say there's not enough parts for black performers.
That's true.
They're just not casting them these days.
Actually, I should have been like, wait a second, are you believing that that they're all hired actors? Because then yes, then I agree with you.
More parts for actors of color.
Like,
let's get some trans kids up there, okay? Please.
I was like, would you and I was like, now, like, do you feel like your page has had, like, because my Facebook feed looks a lot different than my mom's Facebook feed, and which is my sister's Facebook feed. So, have you seen any other friends on your Facebook that have maybe said something?
So my feed is like basically all comics.
I feel like you have a lot of, no offense, dude, but a lot of white comics that you're usually arguing with, male comics.
And I've unfriended a lot of them. Like now from. I can't say that my feed was complaining about the Tonys because my feed was not watching the Tonys.
Okay, fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
I'm saying.
Here's a question.
That's valid, totally.
Would it have been less offensive if they found a black kid who wasn't part of that drama club?
I mean, I think the least offensive.
To do this?
I think the least offensive they should have done is maybe checked in with all of the schools that have had, because now we're up to 200 shootings for the year.
Right.
So,
I mean, you could have gotten at least 5 black kids that survived that could sing.
Yeah. So I feel So I feel like maybe if they would have searched, and I mean they're the Tony Awards, so they had plenty of money to like get some of the better singers from each of the schools. But then I guess it becomes like a talent competition, and it's like you're auditioning to be the one to represent.
Who's going to host that American Idol?
It's like, okay, so we're only casting kids that have been a part of a school shooting that is more than 5 kids, because if it's 3 kids or less, that's just really a Friday night.
Imagine, yeah, right. You would be offended if you saw that casting call. Must be able to sing, be black, and have been shot at. Sounds really offensive. Yeah.
I'd go to that casting call.
I would be there.
I'd be there in a minute.
It's just like, oh, so like we're only gonna hire kids from Compton and from the South Bronx. Okay, I get it.
It's a predominantly white problem, so maybe it's affecting more white kids.
And that's true too.
Even though it's shootings.
No, I think that
it affects more white men than the Tony Awards.
No, but like that's the thing too, though. It's just like school shootings, yes, but I think like shootings in general. Like I feel like if you're in inner cities or like that, kids in Chicago that are walking back and forth home from their school are probably going to deal with more shootings than these Parkland kids. So these Parkland kids literally had like one real bad shooting, but these kids have to deal with shootings every day.
Yeah.
So
and
like
I think that goes back to what we were saying about percentage versus amount,
Right.
Out of proportion. A lot of times when people of color get killed by police, I'll hear fucking white people say, oh, well, more white people are killed by police every year. And I'm like, well, first of all, why are you okay with that? Like, we shouldn't be okay with anyone getting killed by police if there was another way around it. And two, like, you have like
more white people.
There's more freaking white people, so it makes sense. Like proportionally, like percentage-wise, though, I'm sure more black people are killed.
well,
Right,
percentage
it's like
wise,
90% of the country's white, but only like 55% of the people shot by the police are white.
Exactly.
So it's like it's technically true, but obviously it doesn't represent,
Exactly.
but like percentage wise, like most of the people that shoot cops are white, but they still seem to be more afraid of black people who percentage wise and number wise are not shooting them. But that's another thing that like kind of go into your percentage number quandary is that like
That's a great word.
Ooh.
quandary.
Yeah.
Mufasa. Say it again. Quandary. So like
The problem is there aren't enough white people in The Lion King.
that's a quandary. But like let's just say like sexual assault in the military, for instance, right? So now we will say that there is a higher number of women that get sexually assaulted in the military. But if you look at that's the percentage. But like if you look at the numbers, actually there are more men sexually assaulted in the military than women.
The idea also that there's so much violence against, like, you look at all these frats and like these straight dudes, like
They're rapey as fuck.
Why are you? It's like even if you're straight, like why are you shoving? Even if you're gay, why are you shoving things in people's asses? But like, why?
I've seen that porn.
Like, it's always the frat boy.
I auditioned for it.
But like it is, it's always
Frat
like,
Boy 98.7.
I mean, like, but it's very bizarre that like it's not just it's that. And that's how I think you really get the psychology of it's about power, not about sex, because like it is a bunch of straight guys that are essentially raping other straight men.
guys, yeah.
Even if you think about jail, like it's not like, oh, I'm in jail and now I'm some homosexual. It's like, no, it's about power and dominance, and it's like it's just so.
If rape really were about sex, then rape would have plummeted when pornography became more available.
Fair, yeah.
And obviously that didn't happen at all because it's never really about, being horny. It's about that. I think a lot of it is just about the sort of worship of power. We worship aggression. We reward it so much that it kind of, a lot of men confuse that and they see it as like, I mean, how many, old songs have guys bragging about, what they can do and that they don't care, what they do to women and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that funny little Christmas carol, Baby, It's Cold Outside. I mean, you don't think that was consensual.
That is the rapiest song in history.
I know.
That is rape.
Well, no, the second only being the intro to The Cosby Show. That's number 2.
I mean, Biggie has a lot of problematic songs, but nothing as bad as Baby It's Cold Outside.
He's got 99 problems, but a rape ain't one.
By the way, I want to say the thing about Biggie, and honestly, this is a theory I have about why rap is so misogynistic. It's because Biggie happened to have a lot of issues with women, but also happened to be the best technical rapper of all time.
Oh,
it's like if Rembrandt only wanted to paint close-ups of assholes. It's like everyone would learn how to paint by looking at assholes, and then you'd be like, well, just be assholes.
That's fair. I'd buy one. I'd buy 2 for my house, actually.
I mean, so would I.
I'd get them as bookends. What are you kidding me?
You'd be like, I don't want to look at an anus, but the brushstroke is amazing.
It's like a faggy George O'Keefe. I mean, just like, be great. No more flowers, just chocolate starfish, as far as the eye can see. Fantastic.
And that's the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Would it be great to find out 100 years from now that all Da Vinci's were actually pictures of assholes? They were just so good we couldn't tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't look at them from like far enough away.
Yeah.
You just saw the man inside the asshole.
That is called the top. Little gay culture. That is called the top.
Georgia O'Keeffe, you mentioned that she's the one who does all the vagina
Yeah.
flowers and
Oh.
skulls.
The orchids.
A
yeah.
dear personal friend.
Yeah, I really would have loved if, like, when they finally figured that out and told her, she was really offended and had no idea that's what she'd been doing her whole life.
That would be kind of
What? No
amazing.
good? This is what yours looks like?
It's like mine is a flower. You roast beef motherfucker.
Oh, shit. Mine's a weed. Oh, mine's a sycamore, for fuck's sake.
Roast beef.
It's like one looks like a flower, one looks like an Arby's.
But which one is gluten free?
It's all perspective. It's all perspective.
It is, Dave. It is. We should take a quick break. And we'll be right back, you guys.